Good morning. Today we are talking with certified life coach Jeanette Melian, and we're gaining clarity around our life, around ruminating, and around self-care. So here we go.
You can live a life in flow where your deepest heart's desires become reality.
You are here to contribute through your essence, fall deeper in love with your life and the journey that you are on.
Take what works, ditch the rest, and always stay set to love.
Thank you for being a part of this community. We're all designed to live in flow. So let's go.
Good morning, Jeanette.
Good morning.
I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for being here today with me. Shelly is on vacation, so you just have me today, but I'm excited to talk
Thank
to
you. Thank you, Eva. I am excited to be here because I love the idea of just your podcast and what it stands for, just flowing in life. And it's just something we should all really aim to do. Just kind of go with the flow, right? As they say.
Yeah, or a little bit
Easier
more
said than
tried to.
done.
Yeah,
Yes,
for
easier
sure.
said than done, but it can be done. Well, thank you so much again for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. Why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself, and then let's dive into some of these questions that I'm brewing up for you.
Perfect. Well, I am here in Miami, Florida. I was born and raised here. I would say in sunny South Florida, but we have hit our time and weather of just constant rain, but it comes with the territory. I'm a mom of one daughter. She is my greatest teacher. She just graduated from high school, will be turning 18 soon. And as you mentioned, I'm a certified life coach, have been for 11 years, and also a longtime educator. I was an elementary school teacher and school administrator for many years, which I love. I feel I am a teacher, just in a different way. You'll never take the teacher out of me, even though I'm out of the school building. But yeah, that's basically that. And I'm a fur mom to two wonderful little doggies that I rescued many years ago. So they have a place in my heart too.
I love that. So tell me, clarity is like your niche. You really like hone in on that. So first I want to know why that. How did that become your area of focus?
Good question. And I think the reason why is because for many years I was not clear. I was just felt a little lost. Just a lot of things happening in my life. I had a really hard time being present. Ever since I was a little girl, I was always just busy from the time, till I was a young adult and then an adult. And then I became a mom. And you know how that becomes. It's just, as we had mentioned, the to-do list just doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so that being able to be present and really honing in on what it is that I wanted or needed just never came to me. It was just constantly going. And it was always in my head. It was hard to just turn the switch off. And so when I became a coach, I knew I wanted to help people who were in similar situations, mainly work with women who needed that sort of a bit of awakening like I had. And that came after my divorce. It's a whole nother story from there, but there was a lot of clarity around that and being able to move on and rediscover myself and come back home, to who I really am. And it's been a process. And that's what I tell everyone. There's no magic pill. There's no fairy dust that we can all sprinkle on ourselves. It's doing the work and going inward. And so to me, clarity is our default. That is our human factory settings. And what clouds it is a lot of just our everyday, the voice in our heads and the ruminating thoughts and the overthinking and analyzing. And like I said, that darn never-ending to-do list that many of us seem to get very attached to.
Right. So I have a question for you, because I think it's interesting that you say that looking for that clarity or gaining that clarity came after your divorce. So similar to me, I also went through a divorce, and it's when those big moments happen in life that kind of shake us out of that path that we're on, that we feel like we're so safe and sort of stable in, even though it may be chaotic in that to-do list.
Yes.
Do you think we have to go through some kind of traumatic experience to reset our table and allow for some new information or new ways of being to come forth? Or can that happen without going through something so traumatic?
I think it's a little of both, to be honest with you, because I've had both things. I've had a very major life-shifting event, such as a divorce. Another life-shifting event for me, and that's why I call my daughter my miracle and my angel, because it was 7 years before I was able to get pregnant with her. So that was another very life-shifting, trying to control everything and trying to have a child on my timeline, and sort of God in the universe had a different experience for me. So yes, I think a lot of times, and for many of us, especially those of us that are very attached to certain things and ways of thinking and being, we almost really need to be shaken up a bit in order to wake up. For other things, I think maybe not. Sometimes it's just that little bit of awareness. If we allow ourselves to pause and be present, sometimes that awareness will come in, and it doesn't have to be a life-altering event, but some of the times it is. It's either a health situation. Many people, after something difficult like that, start eating better, working out, and it's the process. And that's why I think it's important that we have that awareness and that we're listening, as Oprah calls it, to the whispers of spirit, right? Really paying attention. And one of the things I always say is that awareness is the greatest tool we have at our disposition for changing our lives. But you have to be present in order to be aware.
So let's go back. So I know what you mean by being present, and I know what you mean. I understand that awareness, but let's say there's someone out there who doesn't understand this language, doesn't understand this awareness and present. How would you describe it? And how would you maybe coach someone to look for it, even in just their day-to-day?
So being present comes back to mindfulness, which is paying attention to the moment, to this specific moment, putting all of your senses into it, right? It's not judging it. It's not wanting that moment to be any different than it is. And that's by the godfather of mindfulness, John Kabat-Zinn. And so it's important to try to tune other things out, which is hard when our mind is going a mile a minute, right? It's like, as the Buddha said, we all have that monkey mind. But I think if we're even just aware that you're here and there and everywhere, if you can just kind of take a deep breath. I always say that there's power in the pause, right? So if we can just notice, it's just noticing the minute those thoughts come up, and just go and just take a deep breath and pause. The minute we do that, it's like we're putting sort of some separation between ourselves and those thoughts. We become the observer of the thoughts. I know that's a weird thing to kind of say. What do you mean, Jeanette, the observer of the thoughts? We are not our thoughts. If that's new to anyone, you are not the thoughts that you're thinking. You are the presence behind those thoughts, right? When you hear yourself talking to yourself, that's not you. That's the you that's paying attention to those thoughts. So being present just really means being here and now. And I'll give you just a great example.
Sure.
When you're cooking, I mean, as I'm Hispanic, I was mentioning my parents come from Cuba, and they came back in the 60s. I was born here. But our Latin cooking has a lot of like sizzle and spice to it, right? So as I'm making what's called sofrito, which is your trifecta, right, of onions, garlic, and green peppers to give flavor to your food, you're there, you're slicing, and you're listening. And as you put all of that into that pan, your sense of smell comes in. You smell it, right? And you're there. You're not on your phone. You're not helping your kid with homework. You're not answering that text from your best friend that desperately needs you right at this very moment. You're just there. You're cooking. You're present. You're taking it all in. You're not worried about the laundry that still hasn't been done. It's been piling up over a week, right? Does that resonate with you?
Oh, you
Piling up
laundry I have right now.
You just need to let it go. Let that go for a bit and just be there. And that's what I mean by being present, because the present moment is the only moment we have. And we spend a lot of time in the past, sometimes being upset about it, ho-humming about it, or we're in the future. Oh my goodness, what if this happens? What if that happens? Wait, what if that happens? That's robbing us of the energy of just being alive and in flow, just as you say, here and now. So that's probably my best explanation of what it means to be present and aware.
I love that. I find sometimes, and I do this, I'll get really in my own head thinking about whatever it is. And I do this often when I'm driving, because driving is such like, I don't really think about it almost. It's just
Right.
so second nature that I'll miss my turn, or I'll end up
Yeah,
driving into my old community. I'm like, why? I have not lived in this community for 5 years. Why am I
exactly.
driving up here? It's that muscle memory. So if you're not putting your awareness in the present moment, yes, you can just become so lost and just going off and letting your brain kind of take control, and you're not in that moment. So when you
Correct.
say for someone who has a lot of ruminating going on, or does a lot of that overthinking, or gets so lost in their thought that they turn into the wrong neighborhood time and time again.
I'm sorry, what was it? What would I say to them?
Yes. Like, how do you
Yes.
help someone who does
Okay.
that?
So I think a great thing is to just remember the 3 S's, right?
Okay.
So again, it's being aware that it's happening. I'm ruminating. So if you're driving, that wouldn't be a good time unless you want to pull
Yeah,
off
I
the
know.
road, right? So wait till you get home.
Okay.
But the 3 S's, which would be solitude,
Mm.
silence, and space. So let me go through the 3 of them. You need,
Please.
yeah. So you need some solitude. As a mom of maybe young children, that's hard. I know many women will just go to the bathroom and lock the door, and some of the kids have gotten really good about
My
finding how to get
closet
in
is where
there.
my
Yeah.
solitude is.
Or the closet or somewhere. Find somewhere. I suggest maybe going out in nature for a quick little walk. Maybe, if you can get away, whenever. Find the time to do that. That solitude is important, to be alone and away from the things that have you kind of doing all of the things. Then it's important to get quiet, right? To take, again, that deep breath. Meditation, I cannot recommend it enough. And for people that say, oh, goodness, Jeanette, you don't understand. You don't know what's going on in my head. Meditation just doesn't work for me. Start with a minute. Start with 3 powerful breaths. Just sit in solitude, get quiet, breathe, right? And meditation is not about the absence of your thoughts at all. That's what people think. I have to sit there and think blank. No,
Yes.
it's about recognizing the thoughts, which are hard to get rid of, recognizing them. And it's almost like I always say, think of the clouds, right, in the sky as you watch them, and they become bunnies or whatever you want them to be, ice cream cones, and they pass by. It's like you're watching clouds in your head just pass by. Recognize it. There it is. Let it move. It's kind of like next. So solitude, silence, and give yourself that space. So have the intention of opening up and allowing yourself to feel whatever you need to feel, whatever it is that needs to come up, because the only way out is through. And a lot of times we try to push our feelings down, avoid them, and we go, we're all guilty of it right here. Let's just scroll and scroll and scroll, or, a Netflix binge on a great series. How fun is that?
Yeah.
And it can get into more complicated things when we're trying to avoid and cope. So, but giving yourself those 3 things, the space, the silence, and the solitude, going in for some introspection, why are these thoughts coming up time and time and time again? It's the same thoughts I had yesterday. It's the same thoughts I woke up with the day before. Same thoughts I went to bed with last night. Yeah. So
then
giving
what?
yourself.
So let's say I recognize that I have these same thoughts. Let's say it's like a financial stress that keeps coming up, or an unworthiness thing that keeps coming up. What do you do then? Like, now I'm aware, okay, I have this thing that keeps coming up. What do I do with it?
Right. It's the introspection. So it's really trying to recognize, where is it coming from? That's the key. It's really empowering yourself and not becoming a victim. So where is this thought coming from? Why is it still here? And a lot of times I think if we pull back, way back, it's like peeling an onion, right? If we get rid of one layer and the next one, if we pull back, we start to see it's something that happened to us at some point in our lives. Usually it's in childhood. I don't want to blame parents, but our parents were doing the best they could with what they had as parents at that moment. And it's something I think we all need to come to terms with. Our parents weren't given a manual, just like we weren't given a manual when we had children. So it's looking back to see, where did this come from? Where did it start? And that's that recognizing what that voice is in the head. And usually it's that voice of judgment, as you mentioned, right? It's that unworthiness or whatever the voice is. So listen to what it's saying. What exactly are the words? Write that down in a journal. What am I hearing that voice tell me? And then step back. So that could be another S. Step back and really analyze that. Who is that voice? Where was the first time I heard it? And how did I feel about it? Because a lot of times that will mark you. And again, it's not anything our parents had any intention of doing. Right. They were doing the best they could with whatever was unresolved from their childhood as well, if they didn't work through that as adults. So it's so important for us to have that space, that silence, that solitude, and the introspection. But we've got to be willing. We've got to be willing to kind of open ourselves up to whatever comes up, because it's not pretty. And it's uncomfortable at times, and it's a little scary if we're not used to dealing with our feelings in that way.
Absolutely. So let's say now I want to do this work and I want to dive in and I want to start gaining some clarity around those things that are maybe holding me back or that I'm ruminating over. I really feel like as you're talking and saying these things, it feels like this in and of itself is a self-care practice.
It is.
Versus like the taking the bubble bath or getting my pedicure. It feels like this is really what self-care is about. Diving into that inner soul and seeing where some love needs to be shed.
Absolutely. And listen, there's nothing wrong with a pedicure. If you live here in Florida and you're wearing sandals all the time, a pedicure is like quite important, I will say. Just let's get that out of the way. Okay. But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Bubble baths are super important.
Yes, they are.
Pedicures and manicures, because it is part of self-care. It's taking the time, right, to immerse yourself in that water and just be and feel good about yourself, as opposed to saying, I got to take a 5-minute shower because I've got 5 items on my list I have to do in the next hour. But it is beyond that. Self-care is really about loving yourself first and foremost, being compassionate with yourself. And that is huge. That's almost like a whole nother podcast episode, right? At any given time. But it's about your emotions. It's about your health, your body. And so your emotions is about setting boundaries too. A lot of times we get into this just wheel of never ending, never stopping, because we don't have healthy boundaries. We say yes when we mean no. And as again, quoting Oprah, as she always says, no is a complete sentence. When Oprah says that, you listen. Yeah, it's about really being okay with things around you not being okay. With, like we mentioned, it's okay that the laundry is piling up. That doesn't mean I'm not a good mom or a good wife or a good person that keeps my household ready. It can wait. Why? Because I need rest. So it's about putting ourselves first, and that is by no means selfish. I know a lot of us see that way, but if you see it, if you relate it to like your phone, the minute our phone's down to like 30% battery, oh my goodness, run and get the thing, plug it in. Because if my phone dies, that's a problem. Same thing. If we do not recharge ourselves with everything we need, with self-care, with self-love, with compassion, then how do we give to others? From where? So what we need to learn to do is to give, as Lisa Nichols, who's one of the authors from The Secret, I love her. And she always says, we need to give from the saucer, because that is, you're giving from the overflow of your cup. You have to be so full of everything you need that now you can give to others from your saucer.
I love that. And, I just want to touch on like we're going back to the trauma, and when you're in that space, when you're going through that challenging thing in life, when those bigger things, I think in those points, one of my biggest takeaways was that's the time really diving into yourself and not feeling bad about it, not feeling bad about that self-care, because it's hard enough to find self-care when you're, feeling good about life and like life feels like it's okay and you're managing. But when life feels like it's crashing, you really need the self-care in that. And it feels so disconnected. Like I have to keep everything together. I'm barely keeping myself together. So finding that time to just really be like you said, solitude, silence, and space, and saying that's okay. And
Okay.
actually, you need a lot of it in that time. Go listen to there's beautiful people out there with so much
Yes.
advice. Eckhart Tolle was one of my
Yes.
people. Like, I just would sit in that bubble bath and I would listen to The Power of Now. And I'm just
Absolutely.
like, okay, what is it? Be present? What do you mean be present? But I learned so much because I was so broken and just
Right.
so willing to be open to new information in that time. So
That's key what you just said, Eva,
what's
that you were broken, but you were so willing to be open to the possibilities, be open to new information, be open to new things to touch you. And the minute that you're open, that's enough. That's sending a message to the universe that, all right, let's get the wheels spinning. She's ready. So you need to just get to that point where you are willing to just take one step forward towards the life that you can imagine for yourself, towards what you feel you need, what you desire, what you want, and just take that one step and say yes. It's a 3-letter word. Just say yes to yourself because you deserve it, and know that you are worthy without any titles or labels or a beautiful home that's clean and perfect and a beautiful dinner for your family. You don't have to do anything to be worthy or deserving. Just be. Just the fact that you are here is enough. You are enough. And that's the message I really want women to understand, is just taking that one step forward in clarity and opening yourselves up to what your life can be, to live with intention and flow, as you've mentioned. Because once we have the clarity and we have the intention offers us the peace we need, because we have sort of like our roadmap, so to speak, of where we're going and what we want and what we desire, and we can move towards that with a full heart.
Jeanette, that was so beautiful. You gave
Thank
me
you.
chills. I was like,
Oh, thank
yes,
you.
keep going. Tell me more. So, like, people can find you. You have a podcast. You
I do.
are a life coach out there. So, how can people find you if they feel stuck, if they feel like they don't have that clarity, if they feel like they're full of fog all around them and they
Yeah.
need that help with coming up with a practice, or just having that cheerleader in their corner to say, like, to have that pep talk that you just gave?
Yeah, that's what
Once a
that's what a
week?
life coach is. Absolutely. That is what a life coach is. We help others, seek the clarity or whatever their niche is, and really hold you accountable for that. Really helping you to find your way back home to yourself. And so my podcast is called A Cup of Clarity. I like coffee, and obviously clarity is my thing. And it can be found on Apple, Spotify, and all of the different podcasts out there. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook. It's at Jeanette Melian Coaching. So my first name, my last name with the words coaching. And I have a great 8-week program called Clarity 360, because clarity isn't just one little piece of our lives. It's clarity in everything, in your finances, in your relationships, in your career, and so on. And so those are the places to continue to find me and connect with me. Anyone can just send me a DM and reach out, and I can offer them what I call a guided personal strategy session, or GPS, because GPSs help us find our way, and a free session, and see how I can help them.
I love it.
Thank
You're
you.
so beautiful. Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for coming on our show today
I
and for
appreciate it.
sharing all these beautiful thoughts. I really appreciate the work that you're doing in this world, and that you are stepping into and have stepped into your own flow and following your passions. And I can't remember if you said it on the show or not, but will you share the shirt that you said you just bought a shirt the other day?
Oh,
And
yes.
for people to know, because I love it. I want to go get one.
I was mentioning, I'll give you the details. I was mentioning my daughter and how she switched her what she wants to do in college. And I just, I had to support her and cheer her on. And the shirt that I bought says, "Do what makes your soul happy." And that's what life is really all about, is doing what makes your soul happy. That's what gets us out of bed every morning, full of passion, full of intention, knowing that that's what we're here to do. So yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here and talking to you. I've truly enjoyed myself.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for being with us today. And we'll see you next Monday with another fabulous guest.